Whispers before the dawn. There are moments when the heart aches for something it cannot name. A longing stitched into the fabric of every breath. Not for answers. Not even for comfort. But for presence. For someone to be there, when the night stretches too long and the silence grows too heavy. I used to think the silence meant absence. That the stillness was proof no one was listening. But I was wrong. Silence was never empty. It was always full of the whispers I was too hurried to hear. The ancients spoke of a God so vast that the heavens could not contain him. Yet so close that a whisper would carry his name. Not one name, but many. Each one a window into his heart. Each one a doorway he invites us to walk through. What if every time life cracked open with pain, every time loneliness wrapped its cold hands around us, it was not proof of being abandoned, but an invitation. An invitation to know him deeper. To call him by the name our soul needs most. Some know him as Elohim, the one who spoke stars into being. Some call him Yahweh, the I am who needs no permission to exist. To the broken, he is Jehovah-Rapha. To the fearful, he is Jehovah-Shalom. To the wandering, he is Adonai. Each name is not a label. It is a revelation. A piece of his unsearchable beauty, offered to the human heart. Tonight, under the weight of so many questions, I am setting down my search for answers. I am letting my heart remember the only search that matters, to know the one who was always searching for me. The story of his names is not theology trapped in old pages. It is the story of a God who still speaks. A God whose names are alive. Whose names are invitations. Whose names are promises. Whispers before the dawn. Calling each of us, by name. Pause for a moment. Who do you believe God is? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive deeper together. Elohim, the creator beyond the stars. Before there were words, there was power. Before there were mountains and oceans, before light cracked the back of the deep, there was Elohim. The beginning of everything we know did not arrive with a whisper or a gradual unfolding. It exploded from the voice of a God who needed nothing, yet chose to create. Chose to breathe beauty where there was none. Chose to carve out galaxies, not from necessity, but from love. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Not because he was lonely. Not because he was bored. Because creation itself is a declaration of his glory. Elohim, the name that shatters small thinking. The name that demands we lift our heads higher than ceilings built by fear. The one who does not run out of wonder, who is never tired of making things new. Every sunrise is his brushstroke. Every heartbeat, a signature on the canvas of life. The stars we wish upon. They are the fingerprints of Elohim, scattered across a velvet sky, shouting silent sermons about his endlessness. And yet, with all that uncontainable power, Elohim stoops down to touch dust. Forms it. Breathes into it. Calls it man. Calls it woman. The same voice that commands the edges of the universe whispers life into fragile lungs. I used to think God was distant. Too vast to notice me. But Elohim is not just the creator of stars. He is the creator of stories. Of tiny, trembling lives. Of every second you and I take for granted. When we feel forgotten, when life seems like a meaningless grind, we must remember, Elohim never creates accidents. He never sculpts mistakes. He never wastes breath. You are not just surviving. You are part of a sentence he is still writing. A work of art he refuses to abandon. Some nights, when the world feels too loud and my soul too small, I step outside and look up. I let the cold air sting my face. I let the stars preach to me. The God who holds Orion in place holds my heart just as firmly. The God who spins Saturn on its invisible thread never loses grip on my dreams. Elohim, the creator beyond the stars, is not far away. He is here. He is building. He is breathing. He is not done. Not with the universe. And not with you. Yahweh, the name that breathes. There are names that echo through history, names that topple empires, build cities, spark revolutions. But there is one name not forged by human lips, not invented by cultures hungry for power. A name that simply is. Yahweh. When Moses stood before the burning bush, he was not seeking an encounter. He was hiding. Hiding from failure, from regret, from the weight of dreams that had turned to dust. And yet, it was there, on the backside of a forgotten desert, that God chose to speak. Not with condemnation. Not with demands. But with a name. I am who I am. Yahweh. Not I was, trapped in nostalgia. Not I will be, hidden in some unreachable future. But I am, here, now, pulsing with life in every breath. The ancient Hebrews knew something sacred about this name. They would not even speak it aloud, afraid their human breath might contaminate its holiness. They wrote it without vowels, YHWH. A breath more than a word. An inhale and exhale of wonder. Every time you breathe, you are whispering his name. Every gasp in the middle of pain. Every sigh when words are too heavy. Every silent prayer groaned in the dark. Yahweh hears it, because your breath carries his signature. I used to think I had to climb my way up to God. Fix myself. Clean the grime off my soul before I dared to whisper his name. But Yahweh comes down. He steps into dust and ashes. He stands barefoot on holy ground that looks suspiciously like my brokenness. When he says, I am, he is not offering a philosophical riddle. He is offering himself. His presence. His nearness. When you are trapped by fear, he is. When you are swallowed by grief, he is. When you have nothing left to give, he is still, simply. I am. The world shouts 1,000 names at us. Names like failure. Names like not enough. Names like forgotten. But there is a louder whisper, if you are still enough to hear it. A whisper that says, I am with you. I am for you. I am enough. Yahweh does not depend on your strength to hold him. He holds you. He always has. And when your breath runs short, when your prayers falter, know this, even your breathing, weak, ragged, desperate, is a prayer shaped in his own name. Yahweh, the name that breathes. The name that will not let you go. Adonai, the Lord I didn't know I needed. There is a part of us that craves freedom. Freedom from rules, from authority, from anyone telling us who we are or where we should go. We wear independence like armor. We call the shots. We build our kingdoms. Brick by fragile brick. Until it all starts to crumble. That was when I first met Adonai. Not in the height of my strength, but in the ruins of all I thought I controlled. Adonai, the Lord, the Master, the one who reigns not by force but by rightful claim. The name that demands surrender, and yet, in that surrender, offers life. In ancient days, to call someone Adonai was to admit you belonged to them. It was not a casual title. It was a declaration of trust, of allegiance, of love. When Abraham first called God Adonai, it was not from a place of religious duty. It was from the raw edges of faith, faith that trusted the invisible hand leading him into unknown lands. Adonai does not strip away freedom. He redefines it. Because there is no freedom in being the king of a crumbling castle. No peace in sitting on a throne of fear. But when I laid down my crown, when I stopped pretending to be enough, Adonai lifted me up. He showed me that true strength is found in yielding. That real identity is not built by striving, but given by grace. To call him Adonai is to breathe out the fear of not being in control. It is to rest in the arms of a Lord who does not abuse his power, but uses it to heal, to lead, to love. I had spent years wrestling for my own way. I thought surrender was weakness. I thought trust was foolish. But in the shadow of Adonai, I found a shelter stronger than my walls. A freedom wider than my rebellion. A love fiercer than my pride. Maybe you have been fighting, too. Fighting to be enough. Fighting to prove yourself. Fighting to stay in control. Listen carefully, the fight was never yours to win. The hands that shaped the universe are steady enough to carry your life. The heart that bled on a cross still beats with mercy strong enough for your doubts. Adonai is not a title you give him out of obligation. It is a name you whisper when you realize he is the Lord you have needed all along. Not to crush you, but to carry you. Not to enslave you, but to set you free. Adonai, the Lord I didn't know I needed, but the only one my soul was made to follow. Jehovah-Jireh, when there was nothing left. There comes a point where the plans collapse. Where the savings dry up. Where the careful strategies and sleepless nights of figuring things out leave you with nothing but empty hands. I thought faith meant I would never reach that point. I thought trusting God would mean full tables, full accounts, full arms. But real faith often begins when everything else ends. Jehovah-Jireh, the Lord who provides. Not the Lord who fills my barns before they run empty. Not the Lord who stocks my shelves for comfort. But the Lord who shows up when the last light flickers out. When Abraham climbed the mountain with Isaac, there was no visible provision. No ram tangled in the thorns. No last-minute escape. Just footsteps on cold stone, carrying the weight of obedience and heartbreak. And still, he walked. Step by step, up the mountain of surrender. It was not until Abraham stretched out his hand, not until he proved that nothing mattered more than God himself, that Jehovah-Jireh revealed himself. Provision was never late. It was waiting at the summit. Waiting where trust runs deeper than fear. I have stood at my own altars. Places where I had to lay down dreams I thought I could not live without. Places where I prayed for rescue, and heaven seemed unbearably silent. It was there, in the awful stillness, that I heard it, the rustling in the thicket. The whisper of unexpected provision. Jehovah-Jireh was never far away. He was writing a better story than I had dared to imagine. Provision does not always look like a paycheck. Sometimes it is a friend who shows up unannounced. A quiet strength you did not know you had. A door you had long stopped knocking on, swinging open. Sometimes provision is simply enough grace for one more step. Enough light for one more night. Jehovah-Jireh is not only the God of abundance. He is the God of the wilderness. The God of barren fields that bloom when all hope seems lost. I used to think provision was about stuff. Now I know it is about presence. He provides because he is there. Because he knows. Because he sees. On the mountain of sacrifice, on the path of surrender, Jehovah-Jireh still speaks. And if you are standing on the brink right now, if your heart is bruised from believing, hear this: you are not unseen. You are not abandoned. Jehovah-Jireh is closer than the next breath. Already moving. Already preparing what you cannot yet see. He is the God who provides, not according to your fears, but according to his faithfulness. Not once. Not sometimes. Always. Jehovah-Jireh, the Lord who shows up, especially when there is nothing left. Jehovah-Rapha, in the middle of pain. Pain has a way of shrinking the world. Of turning bright horizons into narrow rooms, where every breath feels heavy and every prayer sounds like an echo lost in the dark. I used to think healing meant an instant miracle. A flash of divine light that would erase every scar. Every wound. Every memory. But healing is often slower. quieter. More like dawn bleeding into a long night than lightning ripping through a storm. Jehovah-Rapha, the Lord who heals. Not just bodies. Not just broken bones or sickened blood. But broken hearts. Fractured dreams. Invisible wounds no one else can see. After Israel crossed the Red Sea, they wandered into a desert of thirst. 3 days without water. 3 days of parched lips and cracked hope. And when they found water, it was bitter. Too bitter to drink. Too bitter to save them. It was there, at a place called Marah, a name that means bitterness, that God revealed another name, Jehovah-Rapha. The Lord who heals bitter waters. The Lord who steps into poison places and speaks life. Healing does not always come the way I expect. It does not erase the memory of the pain. It redeems it. It transforms bitterness into sweetness. It teaches tired hearts to beat with hope again. There have been moments when I wondered if healing would ever come. When the weight of unanswered prayers almost silenced my faith. When pain sang louder than promises. But healing was happening even then. In unseen ways. In slow, stubborn mercy. Jehovah-Rapha is not intimidated by scar tissue. He is not repulsed by our brokenness. He touches the untouchable parts of us. He makes bitter things sweet again. Sometimes he heals through time. Through tears. Through community. Through the quiet faithfulness of showing up for one more day. Other times, he heals in a moment. A wave of freedom washing over years of fear. Either way, his name remains true. His heart remains tender. If you are standing in the middle of pain right now, if you are tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing that healing is for everyone but you, hear this: Jehovah-Rapha sees you. He has not forgotten. He is not finished. He is already at work in ways you cannot yet measure. Already breathing sweetness into what bitterness tried to steal. The God who turned bitter waters sweet is still the God of aching hearts today. Still healing. Still loving. Still calling you by name. Jehovah-Rapha, the healer in the middle of pain. The one who holds every broken piece, and is not afraid to make it whole again. Jehovah-Shalom, the voice in the storm. There are storms that rage on the outside, winds that tear through cities, waves that pound against trembling shores. And then there are storms that rage inside. Storms no one else can see. Storms made of sleepless nights and whispered fears. Storms where the loudest thunder is the sound of your own heart breaking. I thought peace meant the absence of storms. A life where nothing could shake me. A faith so strong that trouble would politely step aside. But true peace, real peace, is not found in the absence of storms. It is found in the presence of Jehovah-Shalom. The Lord is peace. When Gideon first heard this name, he was hiding. Threshing wheat in a winepress. Doing in secret what fear would not let him do in the open. An angel appeared, not with rebuke, not with anger, but with a declaration: "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior? Gideon did not feel mighty. He felt small. He felt forgotten. He felt overwhelmed. But Jehovah-Shalom does not call us by the size of our fears. He calls us by the destiny he sees. In the middle of Gideon's fear, God did not first change the circumstance. He changed Gideon's heart. He planted peace inside the chaos. That is how Jehovah-Shalom works. He does not always calm the storm around us. Sometimes he calms the storm within us first. I have known seasons when the storms outside never seemed to end. Bills stacked higher than paychecks. Diagnoses that knocked the wind out of my lungs. Doors slammed shut when I had no backup plan. In those seasons, I learned something that comfort never taught me: peace is not a feeling. It is a person. Jehovah-Shalom, the voice that speaks when every other voice is shouting fear. The hand that holds when everything else is slipping away. The whisper that says, "You are not alone," when loneliness screams the opposite. Sometimes peace comes like a quiet wave, washing over jagged rocks. Sometimes it comes like a breath when you thought you had no breath left. But it always comes. Because Jehovah-Shalom does not forget his own. He is not intimidated by the winds. Not discouraged by the waves. Not threatened by the darkness. If you are standing in the middle of a storm right now, you do not have to shout louder to be heard. You do not have to fix everything before you feel his presence. You only have to know this: peace has a name. And he has already found you. Jehovah-Shalom, the voice in the storm, the anchor in the chaos, the refuge for every trembling soul. He is speaking even now. Be still. And know. Immanuel, the God who moved in. There are kinds of distance that break more than bones. Distance of the heart. Distance that feels like silence between friends, like closed doors, unanswered calls, empty chairs at tables once full. For a long time, I thought God lived at a distance, too. Up there. Far away. Busy with galaxies and kings and ancient wars. But the name Immanuel shattered that illusion. Immanuel, God with us. Not God above us, aloof and unreachable. Not God against us, waiting for us to fail. Not God beyond us, too holy to come near. God with us. The maker of stars wrapped himself in fragile skin. The infinite stepped into time. The all-powerful let himself be held in human arms. He moved into the neighborhood of our mess. He walked dusty streets. He listened to arguments and held trembling hands and wept at gravesides. Immanuel is not a seasonal slogan stamped on greeting cards. It is the greatest miracle we often overlook. The God who did not shout from the heavens, but whispered through a baby's cry. There were no thrones, no armies, no royal fanfare. Just a manger. Just shepherds. Just the broken and the forgotten looking up into the night sky and finding God looking back. Immanuel means you are never alone. Not in hospitals. Not in courtrooms. Not in bedrooms flooded with the ache of prayers you cannot pray out loud. He is with you in the ordinary Tuesday mornings, and the extraordinary nights of heartbreak. With you when the prayers are bold and the faith feels strong. With you when the only prayer you can muster is a broken whisper. God moved in. And he never moved out. Immanuel did not come to visit. He came to stay. So when the dark tries to convince you that you are abandoned, when fear tries to strangle the song out of your soul, remember this: the God who made everything chose to move close. Chose to share our oxygen. Chose to carry our griefs and bear our sorrows. Chose to wear our dust so that we could one day wear his glory. Immanuel, the God who moved in. And the God who never left. The name I now call him by. I used to think God had only one name. One way of showing himself. One fixed image, locked away in ancient words. But now I know, he has many names. Each one a doorway into a part of his heart we have not yet touched. Each one a melody in a song still being sung over our lives. Elohim. Yahweh. Adonai. Jehovah-Jireh. Jehovah-Rapha. Jehovah-Shalom. Immanuel. And even these are only the beginning. For every fear we carry, there is a name of his that speaks peace. For every wound we hide, there is a name of his that pours healing. For every road we cannot walk alone, there is a name that promises, I am with you. The names of God are not relics to study. They are rivers to step into. Wells to drink from. Stories that come alive when we need them most. And the miracle is this: God still reveals himself today. He still whispers his names to hearts ready to listen. Sometimes through scripture. Sometimes through the way a friend shows up with perfect timing. Sometimes through the wild, unexplainable peace that settles into the middle of chaos. There are names of God not yet spoken over your life. There are facets of His character waiting to be discovered, in valleys, on mountaintops, in ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Maybe for you, He will reveal Himself as the God who sees, the God who lifts, the God who restores, the God who stays. Each encounter is an invitation to know Him deeper. To call Him by a name only experience could teach you. As for me, after the deserts and storms, after the empty nights and the unexpected dawns, after the prayers shouted into the void and the answers that came in whispers, I call Him faithful. Not because life has been easy. Not because I always understood. But because He never left. Not once. Not ever. He was there in the silence. He was there in the battle. He was there when my hands were too weak to hold on. And if He has been faithful to me, He will be faithful to you. The names of God are endless, because His goodness is endless. The story of His names is the story of a love too vast for one title, too deep for one lifetime to exhaust. Call on Him. Seek Him. Let Him reveal Himself to you in ways beyond anything you have yet imagined. And when He does, you will have your own name for Him too. A name stitched from your own story. A name only your heart could have learned. If this touched your heart, help share this. Like, comment, subscribe, not for numbers, but so this message reaches someone else who needs it.